Jack, we've been so lucky lately. Had some of the most incredible guests on. We're learning from some incredible people. I'm having a really good time.
So am I, Jesse. So am I. And guys, we only want this to continue and keep moving forward and attracting and talking to amazing guests and giving you guys as much value as possible. So to help us in doing that, please hit the follow button on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you listen to your podcasts on. That'd be much appreciated. And we'll keep the show on the road.
Mean the world to us. Thank you. We realised we haven't really given much a summary of what we've been up to behind the scenes in the last few weeks and months. So really today is just, we want to go through, professionally how we're going, how we're tracking, and a little bit personally as well. As a startup, it's very intertwined. If you're going well mentally in your personal life, it does often translate through to your business life. So Jack, where do we want to start? There's so many areas.
I don't know. I think, last time we had a bit of a reflective episode was probably when we were really in the thick of it, in terms of we were both pretty stressed, run down. It was a bit of a crazy time. And so, I think post that, it's been nice. We've kind of been able to take a bit of a step back and work more on the business and, plan ahead and look at things, from a bird's eye view rather than, being so in it day to day, which I think, has been really cool. And, we've made a lot of progress since we last had that chat. So there's plenty to talk about today, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think a few of the topics that are coming to mind are, we're looking at bringing on some new members into the team, which I think is so bloody exciting.
Yep.
We've sold vast majority of our shipment that's coming, the first shipment.
Yeah, we've sold, we got about 11,000 garments coming in April, and we've sold over 10,000 of them.
Yeah, which is incredible.
All on pre-orders, which is,
Yeah, no website. So I think just doing that over email and coffee catch-ups is something we're really proud of. That's we'll dive more into that. And the other point I'd love to raise, Jack, is just some of our mentality. I think, I'll speak for myself that I've really started to, I guess my role here, to give you some understanding, is like looking at the analytics, marketing, how we're tracking, what posts you guys engage with, what stories you think are, great that you respond to, things like that. That can lead you down a very results-driven path where you always want to, one up the last thing you did. And I've been in that cycle for a very long time. And only recently I've come to a realization that starting to fall in love with the everyday processes and essentially loving the small things, we have done a podcast episode on that, is pivotal and much better in terms of like longevity and overall feeling. I'm almost at the point where I don't really feel the need to write goals down because I think they're almost limiting, and I think you almost put expectation and pedestals around goals, and often they can be sort of decapitating in a way, or just kind of limit your flow.
I suppose that they're only setting you up to be let down or to fail, really, in a sense. Or
if you achieve them, like I know what you're saying, and the weird part is even when you achieve them, there's like a hollowness to like, oh, we just hit, this amount of sales, cool, let's get double that.
Yeah, there's always something else, and it probably doesn't quite feel as you'd expect it to feel, that whole time.
Every single time. And
it's funny how we do that as humans.
Yeah, and we did it in our run. Like when we did the 62K in Tassie, I remember about half an hour after, Jack and I kind of had this almost bittersweet feeling where it was like, cool, we went and did that. We were thinking about this for 6 months, and now it's like, what do we do next?
Yeah.
And it's, don't get me wrong, it's part of innovation, human. That's why we're here today with like, that's why the iPhone has like 50 iterations, because it's always about the next thing. But with that said, you definitely can lose yourself in that process. And I've certainly been a victim of that. I'm just trying my very best to love all the small parts of the process. And there's so many small things. Like for an example, I was looking through my camera roll before, and I'm seeing Jack ironing the clothes of our photo shoot. And that's not glamorous, and that's not the part you're going to see in a shoot. But best believe if those clothes are creased, that shoot's not going to go as well. So it's about just loving those little things and appreciating them. I think it's funny, right? Because the reason people get hell-bent on results is because that's what keeps the brand growing and thriving.
That's what people see on the outside, I guess, too.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said for results. Don't get me wrong. Like if your brand's going the opposite way, you know, downhill. That's panic stations, and there's a lot again to be said for that. But I think if you are hell-bent on moving forward and results and those types of things, you would try and fall in love with you would try and fall in love with the process first, because I think that's always got a deeper push behind it. And I think there's more longevity in that, opposed to just being hell-bent on margins and, you know, analytics and shares and all this bullshit, really.
Yeah, I've seen that shift in you, Jess, which has been really, you know, cool to see. And I think even for me, you know, definitely seeing you have made that shift, it's, you know, definitely made me think about it more too. And even sitting down and talking with Scott, that was a big, you know, principle that he lived by, is like process driven. And so I think it's rubbed off on us. And, you know, right now we are moving extremely quick. We're about to have, you know, hopefully a new member of the team on board who is going to add, you know, so much value. And we're excited to see, you know, if that plays out how we hope it does. And, you know, we are moving super quick, and it is important to really, you know, step back and pinch ourselves when we do have some of these, you know, moments and days, because, you know, we are sitting down with some incredible people who Jesse and I look up to and, you know, aspire to be like. And so, you know, even the other day, Jess, it was a little thing, but someone collaborated on a post with us, and Jesse and I, like two 5-year-old boys, are back at home at 7 p.m. and just got back from a long day at work. And you know, I was like, oh, this so-and-so collaborated on the post. And Jesse's like, what? And I was like, yeah, that was obviously the plan. And he's like, nah. He was like, you know, like a little kid. He was like, I can't believe collaborating on the, we were like jumping up and down. We're like in our bedrooms. Like, so those are the moments that, you know, you really want to make sure that you're present for. Back to being process driven. That's what it's all about. Definitely.
And I like to look at the other side of some of those emotions too. Like, as we're moving quite quickly and, you know, looking at hiring and things, there's a lot of unknown. At the end of the day, we're both 25-year-old, you know, this is our second business that we're in, and there's tons of unknown. You know, we come on here and give a lot of advice and speak to a lot of businesses. Sure, we have some understanding, but at the end of the day, it's inevitable that we don't know a lot. And that comes with a lot of it, like, yeah, just anxious moments. I think overwhelming, you know, like a sense of just being overwhelmed has been sort of how I felt the last sort of few days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good and bad, really.
Yeah. Well, there's just a lot coming at us, and, you know, we know this is a big business, you know, that we're striving to build, and it's coming thick and fast, and, you know, we've got to start to build a team around it and think about, you know, what 6 to 12 months ahead looks like. A lot of the decisions we're making today can have big impacts on where we are in the future. So that's probably taking a bit of a toll on both of us, Jess, having to make those decisions now. But no, I think, you know, we're in a really good spot. You know, we've had to weather a bit of a storm, you know, financially up to this point, like balance some cash flow. We've had a lot of money coming out, and I know that's something I've been, you know, a little bit stressed about early days, because, you know, that's kind of your business right there. If you don't have enough cash in the bank, we're kind of done. So
to give the listener a bit more of an understanding on that, Jack. So we put a deposit down about 3 months ago on about 11,000 or more, maybe like 11,500 garments.
Yeah.
And pretty much we had to come up with the money within 2 to 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah. So we weren't good for that whole order.
Shit.
But we took a punt because, you know, we saw the demand, and I guess we really believed in the product and what we were doing, and so we took a punt, and it has paid off.
Yeah.
As of recently, but there was, you know, 2 to 3 months there where it's like, fuck, we got to really, you know, bring some money in and move some garments to make sure that we're good for that order. So, yeah, that's being fully transparent.
And I think back to the love of like what you do, and I think this is what I mean, and not to be too philosophical, but it is very deep. And I think if you love the processes throughout your whole life, it is infectious and rubs off. So when Jack and I are speaking to potential customers, if we're just in love with every part of our business and the processes, and I think that, as I said, is infectious and can be sort of felt, and that helps us close a lot of those sales. Where if we're just hell-bent on margin and profit, I think that is also sort of comes through in our words, in our actions. So
sure.
Yeah, and I guess that's a lot of the business stuff. In terms of personally, again, I'll hop on one more time about this love of process. For Jack and I, we love running, and I think for me, I had a recent run at the Run for Kids Herald Sun event in the city of Melbourne. It's a 14.5K event, and I went in there as off very little training from Tasmania. I sort of just threw my hat in the ring as I've done, and it often backfires, to be honest with you, when you don't train for something properly. Depending on what your goals are, of course. But and again, I speak very specifically to me and what the goals are I want to achieve. I'm not looking too much else about the people above me or whatever, anything like that. But long story short is, I got out there, and a big part of why I wanted to run that race was I ran it last year, literally a whole 12 months earlier. And I just wanted to compare myself because I'd probably run 5 days a week for that whole year, and I just wanted to see had I improved and how much. And I was really happy. I rubbed a few minutes off my time, and it gave me great momentum. So much so that I've signed up. Jack and I believe, are you signed up for Gold Coast?
Not yet, but plan to be.
Cool. Well, likely I'll be there. I reckon Jack will likely be there for Gold Coast halfway through the year. It's in July. So running a half marathon there, and just loving it. Like I don't really give a fuck about the times I run. Like I want them to be fast. I want to push myself, but it's not like an ego thing. I think it's just, something that I just enjoy the process of. And then I'll leave it at this because I know I've gone on this whole, skababble. But I guess my main point is this. The training and the process, regardless if this is a run or regardless if this is your business processes, when you get to race day, so maybe that's like a drop night for your sales, or, your website's open and people need to buy your product perhaps. If you've loved all the moments leading up to that, the result kind of doesn't matter because you should be fulfilled from the process. And I just feel like it's a cherry on top, that final result. Because if you've left no stone unturned in your training, I'll stay with the running examples, I won't jump around too much here. If you've loved every moment of it, it's inevitable that you're going to run well.
For sure. I completely agree. I know what you're saying, Jess. Running for us is, just a great outlet and, just a good way for us to push ourselves outside of the business and clear our heads, with so much going on. I also think it's a good time to, give Digby his roses a little bit. He's been making us look, better than we should on these podcasts and doing a lot of the hard yards in the background, getting this thing off the ground. So Dig, just want to say big thank you to you, mate. You've been killing it for us. Tommy as well, been coming on board in a bigger capacity too, which has been really cool. And we're really excited about, presenting Tom, I guess, to you guys as, the third owner here. And, we're extremely excited to see how that relationship pans out in the future. And I think also just to our families too, Jesse and I are trying to do a lot at the moment, and it's probably putting a strain, on, certain people in our families. And definitely my beautiful girlfriend, Steph, feels a bit of that strain with my time spread pretty thin. So I thank her and everyone just for being a real good support network for Jesse and I as we try to chase down, these dreams and goals of ours.
Very well said, Jack. I just want to double down on Digby, just for our listener to understand. The thing with Dig is he's, come across from WA. He's very young. He's 19. This is his first full-time job. And what I am amazed with Digby is he's willing to work 7 days a week. Tomorrow, cat out of the bag, we have Street X on the podcast. Dan, the infamous 11 years in the game. He's someone, as Jack said earlier, we look up to, and we're absolutely hyped to have him on. And I think from our previous chats, we just know how much value and knowledge this man has, and I can't wait for him to share that with you guys. He aligns with us on transparency, so there will be absolutely gems there, so get ready for that. But back to Dig, he is willing to work Saturday morning, Sunday night, and that flexibility and that love and passion for what we're doing is never lost on Jack and I. So we're incredibly lucky to have someone like that. And I think that's a great place to wrap this one up.
That's it. Yeah. A lot happening, and we look forward to doing some more of these, as we go. I think we want to make this a lot more regular, these recaps. Onwards and upwards.